Leonardo da Vinci was born on April the 15th, 1452, in the serene Tuscan village of Vinci, a place where the green hills seemed to whisper secrets to the sky. He was the son of a notary named Ser Piero and a peasant woman named Caterina. Though born out of wedlock, young Leonardo grew up surrounded by the rustic beauty of the countryside, where streams sparkled in the sunlight and wildflowers danced in the breeze. From his earliest days, his eyes were wide with wonder, and his hands restless with curiosity. As a child, he was fascinated by the world around him. He watched birds soar in the sky and imagined what it would be like to fly. He sketched the twisting vines of great plants, the ripples in the water, and the soft fur of a rabbit. But his wonder went beyond the surface. He wanted to know how everything worked. He would take apart simple toys, observe the movement of insects, and even study the delicate veins on leaves. Knowledge for him was a treasure, and nature was an open book. At the age of 14, Leonardo's life changed when his father recognized his talent for drawing and secured him an apprenticeship with Andrea del Verrocchio in Florence, the beating heart of the Renaissance. Florence was a city of marble palaces, bustling markets, and echoing church bells. It was a place where art and science danced together, and ideas flowed like the waters of the Arno River. In Verrocchio's bustling workshop, young Leonardo learned to mix pigments, sculpt clay, and sketch with a precision that seemed almost magical. It did not take long for his talent to outshine even his master. Legend has it that when Leonardo painted an angel in Verrocchio's Baptism of Christ, the master, upon seeing the divine beauty of the angel's face, declared that he would never paint again. But Leonardo was not just a painter, he was a seeker. His notebooks began to fill with sketches, not only of faces and hands, but of machines, of flowing water, of strange creatures half born from his imagination. As he grew older, Leonardo's fame spread. His brush captured beauty like no other. He painted masterpieces like the Adoration of the Magi and Saint John the Baptist. But it was his portrait of a mysterious woman that would become his most famous work, the Mona Lisa. Her smile, soft yet enigmatic, seemed to hide secrets. Her gaze followed you, warm and knowing, a silent whisper of mystery. Leonardo carried this painting with him wherever he went, constantly refining it, as though he could never fully let go of her. But painting was only a fragment of his genius. Leonardo's notebooks, over 13,000 pages of sketches, theories, and observations, revealed a mind that soared far beyond the canvas. He sketched flying machines inspired by the wings of birds, imagined war machines that could crush armies, and explored the human body with a detail that would astonish even modern scientists. His Vitruvian Man, a figure of perfect human proportions, was not just a drawing. It was a symbol of his belief in the harmony between art and science. Leonardo was a man of endless curiosity. He studied anatomy, dissecting bodies in secret to understand the hidden mechanics of life. He designed fortifications for cities, dreamed of canals that would tame rivers, and even conceived of diving suits for underwater exploration. For him, art and science were not separate. They were two wings of the same bird. In his later years, Leonardo found refuge in France, invited by King Francis I, who admired him not only as a painter, but as a philosopher and engineer. He lived at the Château du Clos Lucé, surrounded by gardens and gentle streams, where he continued to write, sketch, and dream until the very end. Leonardo da Vinci passed away on May 2nd, 1519, in the arms of a world that he had transformed with his brilliance. But even in death, he was never truly gone. His art continues to enchant, his inventions continue to inspire, and his spirit, that boundless quest for knowledge, still whispers to all who dare to dream. Imagine the cold touch of marble beneath your fingers, a lifeless block of stone that seems to whisper, waiting to be awakened. This was the world of Michelangelo, a man who could see beauty trapped within rock, who carved not just figures but souls, giving life to stone. His hands were not just those of a sculptor. They were the hands of a dreamer, a visionary who shaped the Renaissance with each strike of his chisel. Born on March 6, 1475, in the village of Caprese, nestled in the rugged hills of Tuscany, Michelangelo Buonarroti was not destined for a quiet life. His family, of noble but modest origins, hoped he would follow a stable path, perhaps in trade or administration. But young Michelangelo's heart was drawn not to ledgers or politics, but to the allure of art. From an early age, he showed a talent that could not be ignored. By the age of 13, he was apprenticed to the workshop of Domenico Ghirlandaio, one of Florence's finest painters. But it was under the patronage of Lorenzo de' Medici, the great statesman of Florence, that his genius would truly bloom. Within the Medici court, Michelangelo was surrounded by poets, philosophers, and artists, a world where ideas flourished like the flowers of spring. As a young man, Michelangelo's talent as a sculptor became impossible to ignore. But it was the creation of David that truly marked his arrival as a master. A massive block of Carrara marble, abandoned by previous artists as flawed and unusable, came to life in his hands. Over 2 years, he worked tirelessly, chiseling each muscle, each vein with breathtaking precision. David stood over 17 feet tall, a symbol of youthful courage and beauty, but also of Florence's resilience against its enemies. When it was unveiled, the city was stunned, a hero born from stone. But for Michelangelo, stone was only the beginning. In 1508, he was summoned by Pope Julius II to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. Reluctant at first, for he saw himself as a sculptor, not a painter, Michelangelo eventually agreed. And what followed was nothing short of a miracle. For 4 long years, he labored beneath the vast ceiling, often lying on his back, paint dripping onto his face, his body aching. Yet from that struggle was born a masterpiece of unimaginable beauty. Scenes from the book of Genesis brought to life in radiant color. A vision of creation, of light conquering darkness. At its heart, the creation of Adam, where the hand of God stretches out towards the hand of man. That moment of divine spark captured in one breathtaking touch. Decades later, he returned to the Sistine Chapel, this time to create the Last Judgment on its altar wall. But this was a different Michelangelo, older, more weary and more reflective. His figures twisted in torment and ecstasy. Angels and demons caught in a cosmic dance, a vision of salvation and damnation. The vibrant hope of his youth had given way to a fierce, almost terrifying intensity. Michelangelo's genius extended beyond marble and paint. As an architect, he designed the majestic dome of St. Peter's Basilica, a feat of engineering that still crowns the skyline of Rome. Even in his final years, his hands never ceased to create. His last sculpture, the Rondinini Pieta, was rough, unfinished, a poignant reflection of an artist confronting his own mortality. He passed away on February 18th, 1564, at the age of 88. His body was laid to rest in Florence, the city he loved, beneath the shadow of his great works. Yet his spirit lingers wherever art dares to dream, wherever stone is given life, and beauty is born from the hands of a visionary. And so, as you close your eyes tonight, let your dreams be sculpted with courage, painted with wonder, and shaped with the boundless spirit of Michelangelo, the master who saw angels in marble and set them free. In the city of Florence, where the streets twisted like ancient vines and the air shimmered with the perfume of orange blossoms and fresh pigments, there was a man who could paint dreams. His name was Sandro Botticelli, a master of line and light, whose brush captured not just faces, but the ethereal grace of myth and beauty. Born as Alessandro di Mariano di Vanni, Filippi, in the year 1445, Botticelli grew up in a bustling neighborhood filled with the noise of artisans and merchants. He was the youngest of 4 brothers, and though his family hoped he might follow a practical trade, young Sandro's heart was already swept away by the magic of art. His talent caught the eye of Fra Filippo Lippi, one of the most respected painters of his time, under whose guidance Botticelli learned the delicate dance of line, color, and expression. But Botticelli was more than just a student. His work soon flourished, and under the patronage of the powerful Medici family, his art began to fill the grand halls of Florence. He painted visions of myth and legend, where gods and mortals mingled beneath gilded skies. Among these masterpieces, none shone brighter than the Birth of Venus, a vision of the goddess rising from the sea, her golden hair flowing like molten sunlight, her gaze serene yet mysterious. This was not just a painting. It was a poem of color, a hymn to divine beauty. Another of his great triumphs, Primavera, was a lush, enigmatic celebration of spring. In this enchanted grove, the figures seemed to dance, the 3 Graces, Venus, Flora, and Mercury, each moving with a grace that was almost otherworldly. The painting was a puzzle of mythology and meaning, a dream of nature and rebirth woven into radiant hues. Yet Botticelli's world was not always filled with light. As the years passed, Florence changed. The rise of the radical preacher Savonarola cast a shadow over the city. It is said that Botticelli, deeply affected by the preacher's fiery sermons, even burned some of his own paintings during the infamous bonfire of the Vanities. His art grew darker, more solemn, a reflection of his inner turmoil. With time, as the Renaissance blossomed further with the works of Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael, Botticelli's delicate style fell out of favor. He lived his final years in quiet obscurity, overshadowed by these newer masters. He passed away in 1510, and for a while the world seemed to forget the dreamlike beauty he had created. But art has a way of resurrecting forgotten souls. Centuries later, his name would rise again. His paintings celebrated as some of the most exquisite treasures of the Renaissance. The golden-haired Venus, the dancing Graces, they would inspire countless generations, a reminder of a man who once painted the whispers of heaven. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let your dreams shimmer with Botticelli's golden light, his graceful figures dancing in the meadows of your imagination. Remember that even in the quietest corners, true beauty can be reborn. Imagine a world where colors clash and embrace, where shapes shatter and reassemble, where the familiar is transformed into something entirely new. This is the world of Pablo Picasso, a man who looked at tradition and chose to break it apart, only to rebuild it with a vision entirely his own. Born on October 25th, 1881, in the sun-soaked city of Malaga, Spain, Pablo Ruiz Picasso entered a world already touched by art. His father, José Ruiz Blasco, was a painter and an art teacher. And from him, young Pablo inherited not only a name but a talent that soon became impossible to ignore. By the age of 7, he was already painting with a skill that astounded his family. His father, recognizing the brilliance of his young son, set aside his own brushes, convinced that Pablo was destined for greatness. But Picasso's journey was not one of quiet admiration. At just 13, he was admitted to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts in Barcelona, where he quickly outshone his peers. The city, with its narrow, bustling streets and vibrant bohemian culture, became a canvas for his imagination. He sketched tirelessly, capturing scenes of everyday life. But even in his early works, there was a restlessness, a desire to go beyond the ordinary. Paris called to him the city of light, the beating heart of the art world. In its smoky cafes and crowded studios, Picasso found his true home. Yet these were not years of luxury. He lived in cold, cramped rooms, struggling to sell his work. His canvases filled with somber blue tones, figures of beggars and the broken-hearted. This was his blue period, a time when sorrow seemed to soak into the very fabric of his paintings. But darkness gave way to warmth. His rose period followed, with its gentle pinks and ochres. Scenes of circus performers, harlequins, and lovers. These were not just colors. They were emotions made visible, his brush capturing joy and longing, the beauty of fleeting moments. Then came the storm. In 1907, Picasso, alongside his friend Georges Braque, shattered the world of art with Cubism. Inspired by African masks, by the fractured landscapes of Paul Cézanne, they broke forms apart and reassembled them. Faces became puzzles, still lifes transformed into geometric dreams. With Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Picasso unveiled a world where time and space folded in on themselves, where beauty was no longer gentle, but raw and challenging. Yet Picasso was not content to be bound by any style. His art transformed constantly. From the classical elegance of his neoclassical works to the surrealism of his dreamlike portraits, he sculpted, painted, etched, and even turned to ceramics. For Picasso, art was not a single path, but a wild, uncharted sea. And in 1937, as war tore his homeland apart, he created Guernica, a vast, monochrome cry of agony, a world shattered by bombs and despair. Twisted figures, a mother screaming over her dead child, a horse pierced by a spear. It was a mirror held up to the horrors of conflict, and it became a symbol of the suffering of all humanity. Even in his later years, Picasso's hands never stopped moving. He painted with the energy of a young man, his canvases filled with vibrant colors and playful lines. He once said, "It takes a long time to become young." And in his art, there was always a sense of youthful rebellion, of a spirit that refused to be tamed. When he passed away on April 8th, 1973, at the age of 91, he left behind a legacy of over 20,000 works. Paintings, drawings, sculptures, each a piece of his soul, a fragment of his endless curiosity. As you close your eyes tonight, let your dreams be painted with wild colors and bold strokes. Let them be unafraid, limitless, as the art of Pablo Picasso, a man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. Imagine a world bathed in golden light, where shadows dance with a life of their own, where the human soul is revealed in every stroke of the brush. This is the world of Rembrandt van Rijn, a master who saw more than just faces. He captured souls. Born on July 15, 1606, in the city of Leiden in the Netherlands, Rembrandt Harmensoen van Rijn was the son of a miller. His early life was modest, but his talent was anything but ordinary. His parents recognized his gift and ensured he received a strong education. By the age of 14, he was enrolled at the University of Leiden, but his heart belonged to art. Leaving academia behind, Rembrandt trained under Jacob van Swanenburg and later Pieter Lastman in Amsterdam. It was under their guidance that he developed his unique style, a mastery of light and shadow that seemed almost magical. His early works already displayed an uncanny ability to bring scenes to life. Each face not just painted, but felt. In his early 20s, Rembrandt moved to bustling Amsterdam, where his talent soon caught the eye of the city's elite. Commissions flooded in, and his studio thrived. Among his first great masterpieces was The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicolas Tulp, a dramatic scene where light seemed to cascade over the faces of surgeons, each expression caught in a moment of intense focus. It was a display of Rembrandt's growing skill, his ability to weave storytelling into his art. But it was in 1642 that Rembrandt created one of his most famous works, The Night Watch. Unlike the static group portraits of his time, this painting was alive with movement. Figures did not merely pose, they marched, shouted, and acted. Rembrandt's use of chiaroscuro, those striking contrasts of light and shadow, gave the scene a sense of depth and drama that was unlike anything the world had seen. Yet even as his fame grew, his life was touched by tragedy. He married Saskia van Eilenberg, his great love, who inspired many of his most tender portraits. But happiness was fleeting. Saskia passed away at a young age, leaving him in grief. His later relationships and financial struggles only deepened his troubles. The wealth and status he once enjoyed began to slip away. Despite this, his art only became more profound. He turned to self-portraits, painting his own face with unflinching honesty, each wrinkle, each shadow a testament to his joys and his suffering. His later works, like The Jewish Bride and The Return of the Prodigal Son, are filled with an emotional depth rarely seen, capturing the raw human experience of love, forgiveness, and loss. Rembrandt's final years were marked by financial hardship. He lost his home, his wealth, but never his gift. He continued to paint until his last days, each brushstroke a whisper of his soul. He passed away on October 4th, 1669, in Amsterdam, his burial a modest affair. Yet his legacy was anything but small. Today, Rembrandt is celebrated as one of the greatest painters of all time. His mastery of light and shadow, his ability to capture the very essence of humanity, continues to inspire. His works are not just paintings, they are mirrors of the soul. As your eyes close tonight, let the glow of Rembrandt's golden light guide your dreams. Let them be filled with depth, emotion, and the timeless beauty of the human spirit. Tonight, let us enter the swirling, dreamlike world of Vincent van Gogh, an artist whose brush captured the storm inside his soul and the radiant beauty of the world around him. Though his life was filled with hardship and struggle, his paintings glow with raw emotion, vibrant movement, and an intensity that still touches hearts all over the world. Close your eyes and travel through golden fields, starry nights, and sunlit orchards, where color and feeling blend into unforgettable masterpieces. Vincent van Gogh was born on the 30th of March, 1853, in the Netherlands. He was the son of a pastor, and from an early age, he showed a deep sensitivity to the world around him. His path was not straightforward. He moved between jobs as an art dealer, teacher, and even a preacher before finally realizing that painting was his true calling. It was only in his late 20s that he fully dedicated himself to art. His early works, like The Potato Eaters, were painted in muted, earthy tones, reflecting the harshness of peasant life. In 1886, Van Gogh moved to Paris, where he discovered Impressionism and the delicate beauty of Japanese prints, the city's vibrant art scene, and the influence of painters like Monet and Toulouse-Lautrec inspired him to experiment boldly with color and light. His once dark palette exploded into bright yellows, deep blues, and fresh greens, painted with energetic, swirling brushstrokes that seemed to bring the scenes to life. During this time, he created Self-Portrait with Straw Hat, a striking image that reveals his intensity and evolving style. Though loneliness and despair still shadowed him, his paintings grew warmer, more alive, filled with movement and hope. In 1888, hoping to find peace and inspiration, Van Gogh moved to Arles in southern France. There, surrounded by sun-soaked landscapes, he created some of his most famous works: Sunflowers, The Yellow House, and Café Terrace at Night. But life in Arles was not without its storms. He formed a turbulent friendship with fellow artist Paul Gauguin, which ended in tragedy when Van Gogh, overwhelmed by mental anguish, famously cut off part of his own ear. This marked the beginning of his deepest struggles with mental illness, leading him to voluntarily admit himself to the St. Paul de Mossel Asylum in 1889. While in the asylum, Van Gogh painted The Starry Night, one of the most iconic images in art history. The swirling skies, glowing stars, and quiet village below pulse with movement and emotion. This painting is more than just a landscape. It is a glimpse into Van Gogh's restless soul, a mix of wonder, turmoil, hope, and sorrow. Throughout his life, Van Gogh maintained a close bond with his brother Theo, to whom he wrote about his longing for peace and understanding. Despite his personal battles, his art never lost its fiery passion. He captured the raw essence of nature and human, feeling like few artists ever have. In 1890, Van Gogh moved to Auvers-sur-Oise, where in just a few months he created over 70 works. His brushstrokes grew even more urgent, his colors more intense. Paintings like Wheatfield with Crows hint at both beauty and sadness, as if he sensed his time was running short. On July 27, 1890, Van Gogh suffered a gunshot wound under mysterious circumstances and died 2 days later, with Theo by his side. His last words were, "The sadness will last forever." In his lifetime, Van Gogh sold only a handful of paintings, yet today his works are among the most beloved and celebrated in the world. His life, marked by passion and tragedy, is a testament to courage, expression, and the unbreakable link between art and the human soul. As you drift to sleep tonight, let the spirit of Vincent van Gogh fill your dreams with color, passion, and the vivid beauty of a world seen through his brilliant, unyielding vision. Sweet dreams, dear traveler of the starry night. Imagine a world where light dances across water, where colors ripple and shift with every passing moment, where beauty is not a fixed image, but an ever-changing miracle. This is the world of Claude Monet, a man whose brush captured the essence of fleeting light and the gentle poetry of nature. Born on November 14, 1840, in Paris, Monet spent his childhood in the coastal town of Le Havre. a place where the sea met the sky in an endless embrace. It was here, among the shimmering waters and misty horizons, that his love for painting began. As a young boy, he sketched caricatures of local figures, his talent quickly recognized. But it was the vast, luminous skies and the dancing reflections on the waves that truly captivated his soul. Despite his father's wishes for him to join the family's grocery business, Monet's passion for art could not be contained. At the age of 16, he left school to pursue his dream, studying under the guidance of local artist Eugene Boudin, who taught him the value of painting outdoors, capturing the world as it lived and breathed. This practice of painting en plein air would become the foundation of his revolutionary style. In 1862, Monet moved to Paris, a city alive with creativity and innovation. There, he met other young artists who shared his desire to break free from the rigid rules of traditional painting. Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Alfred Sisley, and Frédéric Basil became his companions, and together they challenged the conventions of their time. Rather than perfect, polished images, they sought to capture the world as they truly saw it, vibrant, spontaneous, and full of light. The turning point came in 1874, when Monet's painting Impression, Sunrise, was displayed at an exhibition. The work, with its misty harbor scene and shimmering colors, was unlike anything the world had seen. A critic, intending to mock the style, called it Impressionism. But Monet and his peers embraced the name. They were not merely painting images. They were painting feelings, capturing the momentary dance of light and shadow. Monet's life was not without struggle. Financial hardships, the loss of his beloved wife Camille, and battles with doubt and criticism all marked his journey. But through it all, his art blossomed. In 1883, he settled in Giverny, a quiet village where he created his own paradise, a garden of lilies, roses, weeping willows, and a tranquil pond crossed by a delicate Japanese bridge. This garden became his sanctuary, a living canvas that he painted in every season, every light. His Water Lilies series, painted over the last 3 decades of his life, became a symphony of color and reflection, each canvas a window into his dreamlike world. These were not just landscapes. They were meditations, the surface of the water capturing the sky, the petals shimmering with the glow of dawn or the soft blush of dusk. In his later years, Monet struggled with cataracts, his vision fading, but his passion never dimmed. Even as the world around him blurred, his paintings grew warmer, more abstract, as if light itself had become his muse. He once said, "I'm still chasing the sun," and in his final works, that light burned brighter than ever. Claude Monet passed away on December 5, 1926, at the age of 86, but his legacy lives on. His gardens in Giverny still bloom, his water lilies still shimmer, and his art continues to touch hearts, inviting us to see the world not as it is, but as it feels. Close your eyes tonight, and let your dreams be filled with soft colors, with gentle ripples of light on water, and with the quiet beauty of a garden forever in bloom. Let the spirit of Monet guide you. whispering that beauty is all around, if only you take a moment to see. Imagine a world painted in fierce colors, where pain blooms into beauty and suffering transforms into strength. This is the world of Frida Kahlo, an artist who turned her agony into art. A woman whose life was a canvas filled with passion, resilience, and defiance. Frida Kahlo was born on July 6, 1907, in Coyoacán, Mexico, in a vibrant blue house that would later be known as La Casa Azul. Even as a child, her life was touched by hardship. At the age of 6, she contracted polio, which left her with a limp. But this was just the beginning of a life marked by both struggle and extraordinary creativity. Yet, she was not just a victim of fate. She was a force of nature. At 18, a devastating bus accident shattered her body. Her spine, pelvis, ribs, and legs were broken, and her life seemed trapped in a world of unbearable pain. Confined to bed for months, she found solace in painting. A mirror above her bed allowed her to paint self-portraits, each one a reflection of her suffering, her dreams, and her fierce will to survive. "I paint myself because I am so often alone, and because I am the subject I know best," she once said. Her art was unlike any other. It was raw, honest, and deeply personal. In her works, she transformed her pain into vibrant imagery, filled with Mexican folklore, surreal symbolism, and unflinching emotion. Paintings like The Two Fridas and Self-Portrait with Thorn Necklace and Hummingbird captured her emotional battles, her longing for love, and her complex identity. At the heart of Frida's life was her tumultuous relationship with Diego Rivera, the renowned Mexican muralist. 20 years her senior, Diego was both her greatest love and her deepest heartbreak. Their marriage was a whirlwind of passion and betrayal, of artistic inspiration and emotional turmoil. They traveled together, exploring the world of art and politics. But Frida always felt most at home in Mexico, her vibrant homeland. Despite endless pain, countless surgeries, and the slow decline of her health, Frida's spirit never faded. She embraced traditional Mexican attire, her hair adorned with flowers, her body wrapped in bright, embroidered clothing. Her defiant image became a symbol of cultural pride, her self-portraits a testament to her courage. Her later years were marked by worsening health, but her creativity only intensified. Even as she lay in bed, she continued to paint. And in 1953, she attended her own exhibition, carried on a bed because she refused to miss the moment. Her final diary entry read, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return." On July 13, 1954, at the age of 47, Frida Kahlo passed away. Yet her legacy lives on. Her paintings continue to speak, telling stories of pain and passion, of defiance and beauty. They remind us that even in the darkest moments, life can be a masterpiece. Close your eyes tonight and let the spirit of Frida Kahlo inspire your dreams. Let them be bold, fearless, and filled with color, just like the art of a woman who refused to be broken. In the quiet vastness of the desert, where sunlight dances on red cliffs and the wind whispers secrets to the sagebrush, a vision takes shape. This is the world of Georgia O'Keeffe, an artist who saw beauty in the silent spaces, in the bones of the earth, and in the petals of a single flower magnified to the size of a dream. Georgia O'Keeffe was born on November 15, 1887, in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. From her earliest years, she saw the world differently. As a child, she wandered wide fields, fascinated by the subtle colors of wildflowers and the way shadows shifted with the passing light. While others saw simple landscapes, she saw shapes, hues, and emotions hidden in every leaf and cloud. Her talent was clear, but she refused to be confined by tradition. She studied at the Art Institute of Chicago and the Art Students League of New York, mastering techniques but never letting them cage her creativity. Where others painted in details, she painted in feelings. In the early 1900s, her bold charcoal drawings caught the attention of Alfred Stieglitz, a pioneering photographer and gallery owner in New York City. He saw not just talent, but a revolution in her work. Through his gallery, her art reached the world, and their professional relationship blossomed into a deep, passionate, and complex love. New York gave O'Keeffe fame, but it was the American Southwest that captured her soul. In 1929, she first traveled to New Mexico, a land of endless horizons, dramatic cliffs, and silent deserts. The vastness was like a blank canvas, and it spoke to her in a language of light and shadow. She painted towering red hills, sun-bleached animal bones, and flowers so large they seemed to breathe. Each stroke of her brush was a conversation with the land. Her flower paintings became iconic. While critics saw sensuality and femininity, she simply saw beauty and form. "I paint what I see," she declared. "I paint what I feel." In her hands, a simple petal could become a world, a desert skull a symbol of life's fragile beauty. As the years passed, she made the desert her permanent home, living in Ghost Ranch, where the wild, open landscape was both her sanctuary and her muse. Even as her eyesight began to fade in her later years, she continued to create, exploring sculpture and new forms of artistic expression. In 1986, at the age of 98, Georgia O'Keeffe passed away, but her art endures. Her flowers still bloom in museum halls. Her desert scenes still breathe with light and life. Through her work, she left the world a gift, a way of seeing that turns the simplest forms into profound emotions. Close your eyes tonight and let the spirit of Georgia O'Keeffe paint your dreams with vast open landscapes, with petals that whisper and deserts that sing. Let her vision inspire you, a reminder that beauty is not just seen but felt. In the quiet town of Ulm, Germany, on a chilly morning of March 14th, 1879, a child was born who would one day transform the way humanity understands the universe. His name was Albert Einstein. His childhood seemed ordinary, filled with the warm melodies of his mother's piano and the hum of machines from his father's workshop. But even as a toddler, Young Albert was different. He spoke little, so little that his parents feared something was wrong. They nicknamed him the Dopey One, unaware that behind his silent gaze was a mind already questioning the world. At the age of 5, a gift changed everything. A simple magnetic compass from his father. Albert watched in awe as the needle seemed to dance, always pointing in the same direction. What invisible force guided it? This mystery sparked a fire in his imagination, a longing to understand the hidden rules of the universe. It was the first whisper of a lifelong obsession with science. Yet his school days were anything but easy. The rigid German education system clashed with his curious spirit. Teachers found him inattentive, rebellious, and uninterested. They mistook his quiet contemplation for laziness, never realizing that while they recited facts, his mind was soaring among the stars. But at home, young Albert was different. Guided by his uncle Jakob, he devoured books on mathematics, physics, and philosophy, his mind racing far beyond the walls of any classroom. As a teenager, his family moved to Switzerland, where he found a more progressive school in Zurich. It was there that his brilliance began to shine. No longer confined by rigid rules, he flourished, embracing the freedom to question, to imagine, to dream. He soon enrolled at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. But even there, he was an outsider, uninterested in formal lectures, preferring to study alone, lost in a world of equations and theories. Graduating in 1900, he struggled to find work, eventually securing a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It was a modest position, reviewing inventions, but it gave him something precious: time. And in that quiet office, surrounded by blueprints and technical drawings, Einstein's mind wandered across the cosmos. Then came 1905, his miracle year. In just 12 months, he published 4 groundbreaking papers that would change the course of physics. He revealed that light could behave as particles, not just waves, a discovery that would earn him the Nobel Prize years later. He explained the random motion of tiny particles in fluid, proving the existence of atoms. But it was his theory of special relativity that truly shook the world, introducing the mind-bending idea that time and space were not absolute. And from this came the iconic equation, E equals mc squared, showing that energy and mass are interchangeable. But while his fame grew, so did the storms in his personal life. His marriage to Milva Maric, a fellow physicist who had once been his partner in thought, began to crumble. They had 2 sons, but their relationship was marked by tension. Their intellectual connection lost amid the pressures of fame and personal struggles. By 1919, they divorced, and Einstein soon married his cousin Elsa, who brought stability to his chaotic world. Despite personal heartbreak, his scientific genius flourished. In 1915, after nearly a decade of struggle, he completed his general theory of relativity, a breathtaking vision of gravity as the bending of space and time. The world was skeptical, until 1919, when a solar eclipse confirmed his predictions. Light from distant stars bent around the sun, just as he had calculated. Overnight, he became a global icon, his wild hair and warm smile recognized everywhere. But as the world changed, so did his life. In 1933, fleeing the rise of the Nazi regime in Germany, Einstein found refuge in the United States, where he would live out his days. He became a voice for peace, an advocate for civil rights, a man who understood the terrible power of science, yet dreamed of a world without war. On April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein passed away at the age of 76. His last words, spoken in German, were lost to history. But his legacy remains, an endless well of inspiration, a reminder that even the deepest mysteries can be touched by those who dare to ask. In the stillness of a winter's night, when the world seemed to slumber beneath a blanket of silence, a spark of genius quietly entered the world. Isaac Newton was born on the 25th of December, 1642, in the small village of Woolsthorpe, England. His arrival was fragile, born so small and weak that no one thought he would survive. But fate had its own plans for this frail child, who would one day uncover the deepest secrets of the universe. Newton's early life was marked by solitude. His father had died before his birth, and when he was just 3, his mother remarried, leaving him in the care of his grandparents. This sense of abandonment left a mark on young Isaac, who grew up quiet and introspective. Yet, even as a child, his mind was never idle. He would spend hours building miniature windmills, designing sundials, and experimenting with simple mechanical devices. A curious mind searching for answers. At school in Grantham, he was not an exceptional student at first. His mind seemed to wander beyond the lessons of his teachers. But one day, a quarrel with another boy sparked his pride, and Newton became determined to excel. He rose to the top of his class, his thirst for knowledge unstoppable. In 1661, he entered Trinity College, Cambridge, where his true brilliance began to unfold. Cambridge was a world of ancient knowledge, where students were taught the philosophies of Aristotle. But Newton's mind reached beyond the ancient texts. He devoured the works of Kepler, Galileo, and Descartes, thinkers who questioned the cosmos itself. And when plague struck England in 1665, forcing the university to close, Newton returned to his family's manor at Woolsthorpe. This period of isolation, his year of wonders, would become legendary. In the orchard, beneath the shade of apple trees, Newton pondered the force that pulled the fruit to the ground. What if this same force extended beyond the earth, drawing the moon, the planets, the stars? This question became the seed of his most famous theory, the law of universal gravitation, which declared that every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of their distance. But his genius did not stop there. In this quiet retreat, he also developed calculus, a revolutionary mathematical tool that would become essential to all sciences. He explored the nature of light, using prisms to reveal that white light is a blend of many colors, laying the foundation of optics. He was just a young man, yet his thoughts reached across the universe. When Newton returned to Cambridge, he was no longer just a student. He became a professor, his fame slowly spreading. In 1687, he published the Principia Mathematica, a work of unmatched brilliance that laid out his laws of motion and his theory of gravity. 3 simple laws that explained everything from the orbits of planets to the fall of a feather. But while the world celebrated Newton the scientist, few saw the man behind the brilliance. He was a private soul, fiercely protective of his discoveries. His rivalry with German mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz over the invention of calculus became a bitter feud that lasted years. Yet his work earned him honors. He was knighted in 1705 by Queen Anne, becoming Sir Isaac Newton. In his later years, Newton served as warden of the Royal Mint, where he fought against counterfeiters with the same determination he had shown in his scientific work. But his private life remained one of solitude. He continued to study, not just the laws of nature, but also the mysteries of alchemy and theology, searching for a deeper truth beyond the material world. Isaac Newton passed away on March 20th, 1727, at the age of 84. He was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey, among Britain's greatest minds. His tomb bears the inscription, "Here lies that which was mortal of Isaac Newton." But his true legacy lives on in every falling apple, in every star that moves across the sky, and in every question that a curious mind dares to ask. Tonight, as you close your eyes, let the spirit of Isaac Newton guide your dreams. Let them be filled with the quiet wonder of the night sky, the whisper of falling leaves, and the boundless curiosity of a mind that touched the stars. In the chill of an English winter, beneath a quiet, gray sky, a child was born who would one day peer into the depths of the cosmos and redefine our understanding of the universe. Stephen William Hawking entered this world on the 8th of January, 1942, in the city of Oxford, England. His birth, marked by the turmoil of a world at war, seemed an ordinary event. But in this tiny, fragile life lay a mind destined to explore the farthest reaches of time and space. Stephen's childhood was filled with books, ideas, and endless curiosity. His parents, Frank and Isabel Hawking, were intellectuals, and their home was a haven of discussion and discovery. Yet young Stephen was not immediately seen as a genius. He was a curious, playful boy, fascinated by how things worked. He would tinker with clocks and radios, taking them apart and reassembling them, always seeking to understand the mechanisms hidden within. As he grew, so did his fascination with the stars. On quiet nights, he would look up at the sky, his mind racing with questions. What were stars made of? What lay beyond them? These thoughts, which danced on the edge of imagination and science, would become the compass guiding his life. Stephen's journey to greatness truly began when he entered the University of Oxford at the age of 17. Though he found the coursework easy, his true passion lay in the great, unanswered questions of physics. He sought understanding, not just memorization. His intellect flourished, but his path was soon shadowed by an unexpected darkness. At the age of 21, Stephen began experiencing clumsiness and weakness. Simple tasks became a struggle. After a series of tests, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, a cruel disease that would gradually rob him of muscle control. Doctors gave him only 2 years to live. For a time, despair engulfed him. But even as his body betrayed him, his mind soared. With the support of his family and his soon-to-be wife, Jane Wilder, he found purpose once more. He returned to his studies at Cambridge, determined to make his mark on the universe. And he did. Even as his muscles weakened, his thoughts grew sharper. In his mind, he traveled to the edge of black holes, pondering their secrets. His groundbreaking theory that black holes could emit radiation, now known as Hawking radiation, shattered the conventional understanding of these cosmic giants. This was not just a discovery. It was a doorway to a new understanding of the universe. His fame grew, but so did his challenges. As he lost the ability to speak, technology became his voice. With the aid of a speech-generating device, his words reached the world, carried on the calm, synthetic tones of his iconic voice. A Brief History of Time, his book that aimed to explain the universe to everyone, became a global sensation, making him not just a scientist, but a symbol of human resilience. Despite his struggles, Stephen retained his sense of humor and his love for life. He appeared on television, shared his views on the future of humanity, and warned of the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. He was not just a voice in science, but a voice of reason in an uncertain world. Stephen Hawking passed away on the 14th of March, 2018, at the age of 76. The world mourned, but his legacy lived on, not just in his scientific contributions, but in his spirit of determination. He was laid to rest at Westminster Abbey, near Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin, a fitting place for a mind that had touched the stars. Tonight, as you close your eyes, let the story of Stephen Hawking inspire you. Remember that even when life seems impossible, the human spirit can reach for the stars. Let his words whisper softly in your thoughts. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and be curious. Sweet dreams. Nikola Tesla, the true wizard of lightning, a man whose genius illuminated the world not only literally, but also spiritually. Let your imagination dive into the journey of this enigmatic inventor and visionary, a dreamer who saw the future far beyond his time. Get comfortable and let his incredible story electrify your mind like a lightning bolt in the night sky. Nikola Tesla was born exactly at midnight on the 10th of July, 1856, in a small village called Smiljan, which is now part of Croatia. His birth was accompanied by a fierce thunderstorm, and according to family legend, the midwife exclaimed, "This child will be a child of light." These words proved prophetic. Tesla grew up in a household that valued both intellect and spirituality. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest and poet, a man of deep faith and wisdom. His mother, Juka Mandic, was a creative woman who invented small household devices and taught her children the importance of curiosity and a desire to understand the world. From a young age, Tesla amazed everyone with his memory. He could memorize entire books, solve complex math problems in his head, and visualize mechanical inventions with extraordinary clarity. Yet beneath this brilliant academic exterior was a boy who loved long walks in nature. He would watch birds, plants, rivers, all sources of inspiration for his future inventions. His education began at a local school, but his passion for electrical engineering fully ignited at the Polytechnic School in Graz, Austria. There, he devoured books on physics and experimented with electrical machines late into the night. His professors were amazed by his ability to visualize complex concepts without needing physical models or drawings. One of Tesla's earliest fascinations was alternating current, the flow of electricity that changes direction. At that time, direct current, championed by Thomas Edison, was the dominant form of electric power. But Tesla saw its limitations and dreamed of creating a much more efficient system. Despite his extraordinary abilities, Tesla's unconventional ideas often clashed with traditional teaching methods, and he left school before completing his degree. Still, his mind was already overflowing with ideas that would one day change the world. In 1884, he arrived in New York City with little more than a suitcase, a letter of recommendation, and a head full of dreams. He started working for Thomas Edison, the famous inventor who had built an empire based on direct current electricity. However, their personalities and approaches to science were very different. Edison valued practicality and quick results, while Tesla dreamed of revolutionary systems that could change the future. When Tesla proposed the idea of alternating current, Edison laughed and said it was a waste of time. Disappointed, Tesla left Edison's company and set out on his own. Soon, Tesla partnered with industrialist George Westinghouse, who believed in Tesla's vision. Together, they fought for the future of electrical power in what became known as the War of Currents, a conflict between alternating and direct current that captured public attention and shaped the future of electricity. In 1893, Tesla and Westinghouse demonstrated the power of alternating current at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, illuminating the entire fairground with Tesla's technology. People were amazed, and alternating current became a breakthrough. Tesla's defining victory came with the construction of the hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls in 1895. This project was one of the most ambitious engineering feats of its time. The power generated was transmitted to Buffalo, New York, marking the dawn of a new era in electricity. After this success, critics were silenced, and alternating current secured its place as the dominant form of electrical power. But even as he celebrated this victory, Tesla's mind never rested. He was already imagining wireless transmission. The idea that electricity could be sent through the air without wires. In 1891, he patented the Tesla coil, a device that produced high voltage and low current electricity, creating spectacular bolts of lightning that danced through the air during his demonstrations. Tesla believed that one day wireless technology would provide free energy to the world. His most ambitious project was the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, a massive structure designed to transmit electricity and communications wirelessly over long distances. Unfortunately, financial difficulties and investor skepticism forced the project to shut down before completion. Though the Wardenclyffe Tower never became fully operational, it laid the foundation for future technologies such as radio, wireless communication, and modern Wi-Fi. Despite his extraordinary achievements, Tesla's later years were marked by isolation and financial hardship. He was a man of eccentric habits, working late into the night, sleeping very little, disliking pearls, obsessed with the number 3, and finding comfort in feeding pigeons in New York City's parks. Tesla never married, believing his devotion to science left no room for romantic relationships. His closest bonds were with friends and patrons who admired his genius. But as he aged, many of these connections faded, and he grew increasingly alone. On his 75th birthday in 1931, Tesla was honored by Time magazine, which featured him on its cover, celebrating his immense contribution to modern life. Yet even with this recognition, Tesla lived modestly, often struggling to pay his bills in a small hotel room. He passed away on the 7th of January, 1943, alone in his New Yorker hotel room. But his legacy was anything but forgotten. During his lifetime, Tesla held over 300 patents, pioneering technologies fundamental to modern life, including radio, X-rays, electric motors, and wireless communication. His name has become synonymous with innovation. And today Tesla Motors, founded by Elon Musk, carries his name as a tribute to his visionary spirit. As you close your eyes tonight, let Tesla's story remind you that even the boldest dreams can spark revolutions. He once said, "The present is theirs, the future, for which I really worked, is mine." His words, like the currents he harnessed, continue to flow through our world. Let your imagination drift along those invisible currents, knowing that in every glowing light, every wireless signal, and every spark of creativity, a part of Tesla's dream lives on. In the quiet calm of rural England, a young boy's mind was gently awakened by the wonders of nature. Charles Robert Darwin entered the world on the 12th of February, 1809, in the modest market town of Shrewsbury. Born into a family rich with scientific and intellectual heritage, his father Robert was a respected doctor, and his grandfather Erasmus Darwin was a renowned naturalist and poet. From an early age, Charles showed an intense curiosity, collecting insects, minerals, and shells. spending endless hours watching plants and animals in the countryside that surrounded him. Though his mother Susanna passed away when Charles was just 8 years old, his love for the natural world remained a steady comfort throughout his childhood. School, however, was a different story. Charles was not a standout student. He disliked the strict rules and often found his mind drifting away during lessons. Yet outside the classroom, his imagination soared as he explored the mysteries of life. Sometimes, the path to discovery takes unexpected turns. In 1825, his father sent him to study medicine at the University of Edinburgh. But witnessing surgeries without anesthesia shocked young Charles, and he soon realized that medicine was not his destiny. Instead, he found himself drawn to the sea, spending long hours exploring tidal pools and observing marine creatures. Recognizing his lack of passion for medicine, his father suggested a career in the clergy. So in 1828, Darwin enrolled at Christ's College, Cambridge, to study theology. Surprisingly, it was here that Darwin's passion for natural history blossomed. He befriended naturalists and botanists who encouraged his fascination with the natural world. One mentor in particular, John Stevens Henslow, played a key role in Darwin's life, eventually recommending him for an extraordinary journey that would change history. At the age of 22, in 1831, Darwin was invited to join the HMS Beagle as the ship's naturalist on a 5-year expedition to map the coastlines of South America. Though his father initially opposed the idea, Charles eagerly accepted, driven by a thirst for adventure and knowledge. The voyage was both thrilling and exhausting. Darwin ventured into tropical rainforests, volcanic islands, and vast grasslands teeming with life. He collected thousands of specimens, plants, animals, fossils, and rocks, carefully recording his observations with detailed notes and sketches. The journey took him to the Galapagos Islands, a place little known to Europeans at the time, where he observed creatures that would inspire one of the most groundbreaking ideas in science. He marveled at the towering Andes Mountains, examined fossils of extinct animals embedded in rocky cliffs, and studied coral reefs that challenged existing geological ideas. With each discovery, Darwin's understanding of life's complexity grew deeper. Returning to England in 1836, Darwin was no longer a naive young explorer, but a seasoned naturalist carrying a wealth of specimens and ideas. Yet, it would be more than 20 years before he would publish his most famous work. During this time, he married his cousin Emma Wedgwood and settled into a quiet life at Down House in Kent. Their marriage was filled with love and respect, and Emma became one of Darwin's greatest supporters, even as she struggled with the religious questions his theories raised. Darwin spent years analyzing his collections, conducting experiments, and exchanging letters with scientists around the world. His health often suffered under the strain, but his determination never faltered. He studied barnacles for nearly a decade, bred pigeons to understand inherited traits, and observed earthworms' behavior. Slowly, his theory of evolution through natural selection took shape. In 1859, Darwin published On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, a book that transformed the scientific world. The core idea was both simple and profound. Species change over time through natural selection, where traits best suited for survival in a given environment are passed down to future generations. Darwin's work sparked immediate excitement, but also fierce debate. Some praised it as a masterpiece of observation and reasoning, while others condemned it for challenging religious views on creation. Darwin himself was a cautious man who avoided public arguments, preferring to let his evidence speak. But supporters like Thomas Huxley, known as Darwin's bulldog, defended evolution passionately. Over time, the growing evidence made Darwin's theory a cornerstone of modern biology, influencing not only science, but philosophy, ethics, and literature. He had opened the door to understanding life as a dynamic, ever-changing process. In his later years, Darwin enjoyed a peaceful life at Down House, surrounded by his family and beloved gardens. He continued to write and publish on topics ranging from orchids to earthworms, always driven by his endless wonder at the natural world. Though famous, he remained humble and soft-spoken, enjoying long walks where he would pause to admire plants and insects. His children remembered him as a gentle and loving father who encouraged their curiosity. Charles Darwin passed away on the 19th of April, 1882, at the age of 73. He was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey, near Isaac Newton, a fitting tribute to a man whose contributions reshaped how we understand life itself. His legacy lives on in nature's endless story of adaptation, resilience, and wonder. As you drift to sleep tonight, let Darwin's story remind you that the smallest observations can lead to the grandest discoveries. He once said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." His words gently remind us that life is a journey of continuous adaptation and marvel. Imagine the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and the gentle rhythm of waves against faraway shores. Let these sounds carry you into dreams where discovery never ends. Sweet dreams, explorer of life. Marie Curie, the brilliant pioneer who broke barriers and lit up the world in both a literal and figurative sense, was a woman of relentless determination, exceptional intelligence, and deep devotion to science. Born as Maria Skłodowska on November 7, 1867, in Warsaw, Poland, she was the youngest of 5 children in a family where books, lively conversations, and a passion for learning were ever present. Her father taught mathematics and physics, and her mother was a school principal. But life was not without hardship. When Marie was just 10 years old, her mother passed away from tuberculosis, a loss that left a deep mark on her young heart. Despite this pain, Marie found comfort in her studies, excelling at school with a burning curiosity and a dream to pursue higher education. A dream that was difficult for women in 19th century Poland under Russian rule. where education for women was limited and controlled. Undeterred, Marie attended the secret Flying University, an underground school where women could learn despite the oppressive regime. Here, her passion for science grew stronger, and she vowed to seek greater opportunities abroad. At the age of 24, in 1891, she moved to Paris to study at the Sorbonne. Life in Paris was tough. She lived in a tiny, cold apartment and often survived on little more than bread and tea. But these hardships did not stop her. She dove deeply into her studies, earning degrees in physics and mathematics. It was during this time that she met Pierre Curie, a kind and brilliant physicist whose gentle spirit matched her own fierce intellect. They married in 1895, becoming not only life partners, but also research collaborators whose work would change the world forever. Marie and Pierre began exploring radioactive elements, inspired by the recent discovery of X-rays and the mysterious energy emitted by uranium. Working tirelessly in a small, makeshift laboratory under difficult conditions, they ground and processed tons of pitchblende to isolate the source of this strange energy. Their hard work paid off in 1898 when they discovered two new elements: polonium, named after Marie's homeland Poland, and radium, which glowed with an intense, eerie light. The term radioactivity was born to describe this amazing phenomenon. Marie's precise experiments proved that radioactivity was a property inherent to certain elements, not simply a chemical reaction. This discovery revolutionized physics and chemistry, opening doors to new scientific breakthroughs and medical advances. In 1903, Marie and Pierre, along with Henry Becquerel, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for their joint work on radioactivity. Marie was the first woman ever to receive this honor, breaking through the male-dominated world of science. But joy was short-lived. In 1906, Pierre died in a tragic street accident, leaving Marie devastated. Yet she found strength in continuing their work. She took over Pierre's teaching position at the Sorbonne, becoming the first woman to teach at this prestigious university. Her research did not stop. In 1911, she won a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, for her discoveries of polonium and radium and her efforts to isolate pure radium. To this day, she remains the only person to have won Nobel Prizes in two different scientific fields. During the First World War, Marie applied her scientific knowledge to medicine by developing mobile X-ray units known as little Curies. These units were used on battlefields to help doctors locate bullets, shrapnel, and broken bones in injured soldiers. With her daughter Iron by her side, she trained radiology technicians and personally oversaw the use of more than 200 mobile units. Her work saved countless lives and showed her belief that science should serve humanity, even when it meant risking her own safety. Sadly, decades of exposure to radiation took a toll on her health. She developed aplastic anemia, a disease linked to prolonged radiation exposure, but her passion for discovery never faded. Marie Curie passed away on July 4, 1934, at the age of 66. She was buried alongside Pierre in a simple grave until 1995, when their remains were moved to the Pantheon in Paris, a place reserved for France's most honored citizens. Marie was the first woman to be laid to rest there based on her own achievements. Her legacy continues to shine brightly. Her discoveries paved the way for cancer treatments, nuclear energy, and medical imaging technologies. Around the world, institutions, schools, and research centers bear her name, celebrating the woman who refused to let societal norms dim her light. She once said, "One never notices what has been done. One can only see what remains to be done." These words, like her life, inspire us to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles. Tonight, as you close your eyes, let Marie Curie's story remind you that even in the darkest times, knowledge can shine like a beacon. Picture the glow of radium not as something dangerous, but as a symbol of curiosity and perseverance, guiding you into dreams where discovery never ends and barriers are meant to be broken.